Radio DZEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo.
Don't underestimate
the power
of a single
conversation.
It could change your whole life.
INCRadio Chatline.
conversations that matter.
I think I'm of the opposite. I'm not gonna lie. If I given the opportunity, I think maybe this may be the romanticist in me, or even like maybe one too many love novels. You know, just in the pursuit of it. Just the idea of going to the lengths for love. Right? Would I do that? Depends. I'm also of the same situation where I've never been in that situation. But there is a part of me that wants that, right? Like to give it all up for the sake of love.
Truly, no, I'm there with you. I think for me, that's always just going to be a dream that I have, but I think I'm just waiting. Honestly, it's more of just like till then, whenever like that opportunity comes along, I guess I can do my job.
I guess we can do our jobs.
I guess.
We love our jobs.
Now, James, what you said reminded me of like you don't know what you can do like until like you find out you're in love, right?
I absolutely agree. Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything you just said. And did I ever have to choose? Yes. Unfortunately, when I chose love, during that time I was still a lot younger, and therefore my parents intervened, and I couldn't choose it regardless. And now I know the reason why, and sometimes things happen, as the saying goes, right? Things happen for a reason. We learn from mistakes, and we have to remember that sometimes we have to use our logical thoughts instead of just using our hearts.
Now, Melvie, I do have a question. Is it a mistake or is it character development?
It was a character development.
And I feel like there's always a difference between the two.
And you know what? Even if let's say I chose and I was allowed to, it would have not worked out because the person didn't believe in long distance relationship. Because I had to leave the place and come here in the US. My whole family relocated here from Guam, so that's why it happened the way it did.
So when you say long distance, really long distance.
I'm a believer that when it comes to love, if two individuals, are willing to work things out together side by side, it's possible to love at a young age and grow old together. Now, granting that you're already also financially stable, you're already on the same page when it comes to that, and you have the needs and the resources to help each other. Not just doing it for the sake of doing it. Especially, with life nowadays, it's challenging. I'm sure Arnie can agree with me at some point, or maybe some.
No, it is challenging, and I've actually had the opportunity to choose between one or the other. And at one point in my life, I did choose love, and it worked out well for a bit. But then after a while, as you progress in your career, the whole expectations gets a little bit higher. And so then when things were kind of not working out, and I'm like, forget it, it's going to career now, and ended up doing the whole career thing.
What kind of expectations did you have in your partner as your career started to progress?
I think usually when you when you're younger, you don't really have expectations, like, oh, I just want a guy, I just want somebody who's cute and things like that. But then after a while, once you get a degree, once you have a job and you have your life set, you kind of don't want someone who's just going to sit around and do nothing. You want them to have either the same ambitions or do just do something else other than sitting on the couch playing video games.
Fair.
Oh, yeah, fair.
That
We're
is
showing
really
we're
fair.
showing variety of expressions.
Yeah.
No, I'm just a little happy that you guys.
Seeing
you guys
everyone
shared that,
like,
too.
okay, let's see the young
Well,
ones.
it's
How
like
the young
for
ones
me,
think
it was-
nowadays.
Yeah, maybe like I'm like kind of like was in the same boat with you, where it wasn't career, it wasn't like love or career, it was love or like family, like because well, allow me to elaborate. My parents, they it's not like they told me that they weren't against who it was. They were just like, you're not ready for it. That's what they were telling me. I wasn't ready for it. And you know what? They were right. They were right. Because see, the thing is like like being just just turning 18. It was just like just turning 18. Like my mind was like going to like like how I never had been in a relationship. So I was like thinking, oh, like I'm 18 now, I'm an adult now. you know, like I'm ready for relationships now. I was not. Like even at 18, my mind was still thinking of like, because you at that age, my mind was just thinking of like the good sides, of love, where it's just like like kind of like the good feelings of like, it wasn't ready for the not so good feelings, like the sacrifices you have to make sometimes. It wasn't ready for that, and like my immaturity showed during that time, and that's like at the end of it, I just thought to myself, they had a point. They had a point when they were telling me that.
That's interesting. I feel like this is the plot's thickening. It's thick. It's
Mhm.
Oh,
thick.
we're
So there's,
talking. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, it was like it's because there's always different perspectives, right? With Arnie, or actually was it Melville who had the long distance relationship? Excuse me.
Yeah.
So it may be distance, it may be family, it may be um, the length of or the ups and downs of a relationship, right? So it can go either way, and that's not the things that you can foresee, especially if you make this decision so early on, right? You choose love over career. It's not something you can like, hey man, like, oh, 3 years from now we're gonna have a great time. You won't know that until we go through it. So how is it? How did you guys choose love over career, especially in the beginning? What was the first things that came to mind when you guys made that decision, right? Because then you wouldn't know what happens afterwards, but you made the decision anyway. So how was that for you guys?
I think for me, it was because I was already with that person, like while I was still in school and everything. And then, but then, like I said, after a while, when they were not meeting my expectations, I'm like, okay, I'm not putting my career on hold to wait for you to get to the same point as I am. I am going to start working on my career because me, I'm independent. And so I want to be able to take care of myself and not have to rely on a man to take care of me. And I've been doing things on my own. And so when career opportunities came, it was adios, and I'm going to work.
Strong, independent woman.
We love it. We love to see it. If I knew that we were talking about like younger and then being in love, I feel like whenever I was younger, I did have someone like that I felt like I was in love with, or like that I really liked. Like 17, 16, 17. It was someone that I thought that I was gonna end up with, like that kind of. If it was like that, then yeah, I guess I did choose love for a little bit. But it is kind of like what Arnie is saying and what EJ was saying, of just like, I guess my ambition then was just like feeling that I could do better, uh no shade to the guy, no shade to the guy, he's very lovely, but
Not suited for
just in
you,
terms,
basically.
yeah, just in terms of just like uh even back then, even though I was a kid and they didn't know, just like, oh, my emotional needs like aren't really being like met, or I wish he could do this, I wish he could do that for me. And then there was a part of me that was just like, well, why do you think that you deserve to have those things be done to you? Like, what are you? And then it's kind of just like, well, I would like to deserve more, than I'd like to deserve the things and that this guy is not doing. And if I'm not there yet, if I think that I don't deserve that yet, then I'll just work towards it, just focus on that, and then hopefully that person in my life will come, and then it'll be what I deserve. If we're talking about like that, then like, yeah, my younger self was very much into just wanting to be in love.
I mean, I think everybody wants to be in love, but then you have to think about reality, wherein, what my parents always told me, love is not going to support you if if you're not financially stable. And so I think for me, it's knowing that if I focused on my career, then it didn't matter what happened. I knew I could take care of myself and I wouldn't have to rely on somebody.
Yeah.
And and having that sense of independence and knowing that, hey, I could survive without a man if I really needed to, just makes it just makes more sense, as opposed to having to always be looking for somebody because you can't support yourself or you can't take care of yourself.
But I think
There
a
is
lot
such
also. Sorry, go ahead, Charmaine.
I was just gonna say there is such a power of security whenever like you have that thought, like knowing that you can provide for yourself, and knowing that like uh that you can provide and be enough just for yourself. I do love that. I I I'm always striving to be like that, always striving to be independent, be fine with my own company. I've been doing it like for years, but there's still a part of me was like, man, I want to be in love. I want to be in love so bad. And then, or like, it's just kind of a battle of just like, I love being independent. I love my life being single. I also want to be in love. So,
That's gonna be my question too, because for the ones who haven't been in the position to choose yet, because I've experienced this a lot. Like, I don't know if it's because of my age now, but the conversation always comes up like, "Oh, do you have a boyfriend yet?" Or like, "Oh, are you married yet?" Why? Why not? And then you're kind of just like, I feel like for me, I haven't had to make the choice yet, but I feel like I'm actively making that choice right now. That I'm just not interested in pursuing a relationship, but I still get maybe questioned for doing so. I don't know if you guys would answer the same if someone were to pose that question to you, like if you had to choose between your career right now or a career that you're actively pursuing versus, let's say, someone comes along, like what would it look like for you?
I want to
You know what?
sacrifice my career.
Oh, you
For
know
me,
what? You know, it's funny 'cause
I would still pick
Whatever
career.
falls on my lap first.
no,
I would want to. I
it's,
want to find a partner that would support my career.
it's a partnership for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's funny
I
because
would still choose my career.
And here's
I'm
the
sorry.
thing about love.
I've got great benefits, and I'm not giving it up. I'm not willing to give it
Independent? Are
up
you kidding me?
right.
unless he can give me the same benefits. I'm sorry. I have this need to travel the world, and if he can't afford that lifestyle, then I can't give up my career.
So cool.
True.
So cool.
See how
But
you establish,
so
see how you
we have
establish expectations as you get older. It's also getting higher.
It is.
And then in the end, you're now struggling with that other half you're looking for. But see, the thing is, when I was younger, I was completely blinded by love.
Yeah.
I went with my emotions. I didn't even think about it. I just went with it and fought for it, which is normal when you're young. You don't really think about it. Again, I got carried away by my emotions, thinking, oh, he said this to me. He made a promise. He said we're going to work things out. He believes in this. He believes in that. And little did I know, the minute I left, everything just went out the door. And so I'm glad that my parents stopped me from pursuing that, even though it was very heartbreaking, because when you establish such strong connections, you bonded, you have so many commonalities with each other. And then you also now talked about the future, then out of nowhere, surprisingly, in the end, you were the only one who was actually trying. So, yes, I agree with Ernie that as you get older, you start to learn more, you grow, you realize what's more important. And here's the thing with love, when it comes to love and relationships and even marriage, is what I've learned is in order to have a life with someone else, you need to fix yours first. Because in the first place, you having someone by your side is sharing a life with them, not for the sake of having a life just for that person. You cannot revolve your life around a person. You have to be with someone so you can share a life with that person. All the way to
Adding to each other as opposed to.
yeah. And even if, let's say, maybe for Arnie and I, love and career, or let's say somebody comes along, I would still give it a chance because I'm just all for trying it out, and I would rather try than live in regret, especially if the feelings are mutual. And if he also has a career, then we can talk things out. Lay out your expectations right there and then. And you'll know if that person is the right one for you. You have to. You can't just say, oh, he's this, he's that, or she's this, she's that. I'm enamored. I am fascinated. I am in awe with this person. But then the expectations, which is very important, is not even on the table. And then you forget
Talk your
about it.
stuff, Mel. Talk your stuff. Yeah.
But when you lay it all out, like what Arnie said, these are what I want in my life. Are you able to give it to me and
I
work it
love
with
that.
me?
And
Priorities.
I agree with you. Like, if a chance happens and you meet somebody, yes, I'm willing to give them a chance. That's not the question. But am I willing to give up my job to be with that person if that is the case? And my answer is still no. And just to throw in there, Romy, one of our viewers, did make a comment, and he said, if the end goal of entering a relationship is marriage, and it should be, I think a career should come first. See, so he agrees with me.
I feel like
finances. The finances for
I feel
Definitely.
like my parents gave like the same speech of just like, oh, love won't provide. They would say the thing of just like, well, is your boyfriend gonna take you to McDonald's for your dates, huh? I'm just
no. I mean, what my parents told me is like, what was it they said? Like, if you're paying for your date with your parents' money, then they're like she's their girlfriend, not yours. 'Cause
Right.
you're not paying for it.
There's definitely levels you need to be able to hit before you should. I feel like you can before you start thinking about relationships for sure. Being able to hold on your own is one. Being able to hold down a job is one. Being able to afford the dates, right? A common joke that me and my friends have is that we're too broke to date a baddie right now. That's what we're at that point in time, right? We can't we can't we don't have travel money yet. We don't got intercontinental like trips yet. We were not there yet, but we're working towards it. That's the jokes we have. And it's
No.
really just kind of identifying what you like, where you're at in life before you start focusing on relationships. Though, while I do believe in I am on the side of love, right? In this conversation, like love over career, there are exceptions and there's things that need to be done prior to making that leap into that. Before you get into a relationship, these are the prerequisites you need to make. That's my 2 cents.
Melvi, whenever you talked about, first of all, I always want to know. Good point, James. Very good. Yes. Same. Melview, you talked about putting all of your expectations out there, and you said it with kind of an urgency. So, at what state would, like, say if I meet like a nice brother and everything, and I'm starting to think that he kind of cute, when do you think that I should like list out like my expectations? Like kind of like what stage of talking or courting do you think that should happen?
Well, since you bring that up, tune in next week and you'll get that answer, because that's what our topic is going to be for next week.
That's right.
And just to go off of that, we do have Melanie who is also tuning in right now, and she did say something, and I totally agree with this. And she says, "I think it's important to be able to stand on your own and be able to bring something to the table. But once you're stable and meet someone you're compatible with, it's okay to see where things go." So she's kind of the same thing that we say, Melvi, where you should get established first and then go from there, because a lot of times when people make the wrong decisions at certain points in their life, they tend to regret it. So I agree with her too.
Is everyone pro career in this? James identified as like more on the love side. Just curious.
I don't know if I choose either, like either one. It's just what, like, because I'm not for forcing, like, let's say depending or not even depending on, like, there's, hold on, let me fix my words. There's definitely something that I want, that I know I want, but like, I'm like, if there's something I learned from the past, it's just like, it's never gonna work if you force it. It's never gonna work if you force career. It's never gonna work if you force love. You should let it. You just do what you need to do. Like, I'm saying career because yes, whether or not you're with someone, you need that. Like, if love comes along, then it comes along, right? You give it a chance. Like what Melvin said. Like, if it comes along, you give it a chance. But like said, you lay out your expectations. You communicate that way before you start investing. It's investing.
Ooh, that's a nice line.
We have another viewer who made a comment, which I think is pretty interesting too. And he says, one should never allow themselves to solely base their happiness on a significant other. Focus on building themselves as a person, be the best person they can be in faith, and then find happiness within. And it's just very enlightening that so far all those that have said choose a career are married folks.
When I read that, Arnie, it reminded me of myself, because I'm a younger version of myself, and then eventually grew into one that's more logical in terms of making decisions in life, and had to learn from past mistakes and a lot of painful pasts as well, especially when it comes to love. And so, if you think about it, there are so many factors that we consider. But when you find that person who cares about you, or whether if it's he or she in your life, they shouldn't even make you choose love or career in the first place. They should be by your side by side, along with you, in making all the decisions to make things work in your relationship that will lead towards a good marriage or married life.
I think that's kind of that is
a second process.
Let's marinate on that for a little bit.
We're all like in silent awe, just like yes.
Yes, Mel. Yeah.
It's just interesting though, because you always hear those stories about people who did make it work, right? They did make it work, like maybe going through college or maybe going through grad school. I know some people like pursue grad school. And so what would be the point for you? Because I know like Arnie and Melvi, you guys are like on the side of, being established first. Like, what do you consider established? Like just being financially stable, like just being able to support yourself in that way? Or, where are you on that?
When you already find yourself as a whole person that is willing to share with someone else now.
What?
You cannot love someone back if you're not whole. I'm letting you know now. If you're still doubting yourself, if you're still questioning about your abilities, if you're still questioning where you're at, then you are not ready. But
how do I know if I'm whole?
There's way too much character development to go through.
Arnie,
Right,
if you still have to ask, that question, how do I know if I'm whole? Then you're not there yet.
Okay, noted. Okay, that's all I need to know.
That's exactly what I was like. I was like, I
Just
feel like
like
it's in-
just like if you have to ask yourself, am I stable enough to take care of myself? If you still have to ask that question, then no, you're not.
Okay,
Because
then I'm
these
not.
are these are
Noted.
things are you guys will know, even if you don't, even if people don't bring it up, even if it doesn't matter what stage of life you're in, you will know when you're ready. Like for me, honestly, I'm ready. I have a car, I have a house, I've got a job. Okay, so yes, the only thing missing is a man, but like I said, I'm not willing to give up what I have for a man.
that's
So,
right. You need somebody to match your level. I got all right. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
because like I said, I love to travel. I like to go places. And a few of the people I've met, they're homebodies. They're content with staying home. And I get that some people are like that, but you need to find someone who will, enjoy traveling and doing all the other things that I do so that it would work, you know. And then the other thing is how you know if you're ready is like when we said you're stable. What is being stable? Stable is not just being able to take care of yourself, but if you need to take care of somebody else, are you able to do that? Because even though the person you end up with may have a job, they may have everything, you never know what happens in life. Somebody could lose a job. And then, if that happens, can you support one another? And then that's
adding,
how I think you know if you're ready or not.
she's absolutely right. And adding to that is there are no guarantees in life, in love, and in career. So if and when we're ready to give it our all, whether if it's career or love or any other aspects of our lives, we are now prepared to the present and the future outcomes. And once you're whole and ready to be prepared or are prepared to do so, then it doesn't matter really what you choose in life. But when it comes to love, again, there's no guarantee. So if and when you're ready to love again or to pursue that path, you also have to be prepared for the unexpected, if in case it doesn't work out.
And I agree with you. Everything, nothing's set in stone. Okay. But I think the reason I would choose career is because I can control my career. If I decide I want to keep this job, I'm going to do everything I can to make it work. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do things because that's something that I could possibly control. But when you put in another person as a factor, it doesn't matter how much you love that person. That person may not stick around. That person may be the type that is either intimidated by your success and will leave, or that person could get tempted by somebody else and leave. And that's nothing you can control. But at least with your career, if you want to make it great, you have that control because there's no other person usually to factor in except for you and your job.
I don't
Wait.
disagree, but I have to advocate for the other side
That's
just
what I was about to do
because.
out there. I was just about to say that same thing. I was like, is there no exceptions to that? Is it has to be a thing to
James,
left
this
or
is how
right?
James, this is how I see it. I see career as a necessity, love as a choice.
Right. Love is a choice, and career is a necessity for sure. Oh,
Go ahead.
Sorry. That was it. Yeah. PJ,
Yeah.
you got it.
Yeah. I also do want to be self-assured, a stable person before I go into a relationship. That's why I feel like I like taking my time and I like the waiting or like to feel whole, to feel like I can be fulfilled just by myself. I there are a few things though where I don't know. I feel like it's very normal for to for me to see people around like me still kind of have that doubts and then kind of find well like being like in a career and everything and then having a person like come into their life that kind of like not solves their doubts but kind of just like makes them makes them reach more of a confidence that they also deserve this type of love all along and that type of person. So I feel like, are like, it's important to be independent. It's important to be self assured. I don't think that like there's a certain stage of your life, especially if you're already independent, already stable, where you're like kind of undeserving of love. I feel like there's, I could be lacking in some things and that can make me doubt myself. But I feel like there can also be a person that comes along that can be like, hey, or like, I can see like the things that you're kind of doubting and you're lacking, but I'm willing to like talk to you about that to make you feel still fulfilled despite you having those doubts and flaws. I feel like that there's a part of me that's also kind of hoping for that, while also hoping for that future where I can just be fulfilled without having that.
Okay. I'm gonna advocate for love real quick here, because
Please.
I know we success has been like on the upper end, but I want to speak to what you just said, Char, because I was listening to my friend talk about her. Was it yesterday? I can't remember when it was. I think it was yesterday. Well, recently she was talking about her marriage with her husband, and I think it was like they were in college. They were both finishing up college when they were in their relationship, and there's something else that I saw also on a post the other day where it's like when you encounter someone else, like, on that level where you get to know each other, you kind of discover and learn more about yourself that you may not have otherwise seen, because they kind of get you to face certain things about yourself that maybe you didn't have to deal with before, or they point out things to you like, oh, did you notice like this about you? And they're kind of like, oh, I guess I'm like relearning more about myself through another person, right? So that's one of the things where you can kind of get those benefits from having someone in your life during those growing periods, or even just that inspiration, as they say, like having that inspiration in someone. Or but I think it also speaks to like what Arnie and Melby have talked about. You kind of have to be able to put that on the table, like communicating those expectations, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're going to say that you're going to be going to school and you're still pursuing this relationship, you got to like set the boundaries, like, okay, I can't spend like 5 hours on a video call with you because I have to do like all of this work, just this balance, finding that balance, right? So if you do decide to go that route where you are pursuing both actively, I feel like it's a lot of communication, whether you're long distance, whether you're in the same area. It needs to have expressed expressed expectations, and just communicating all across the board in terms of whether it's personal life, like time with your family, like, hey, I need this time with my family, hey, I need this time for my school, hey, I need this time for my work, because relationships require a lot of effort.
Yeah.
They take a lot of time. So
That's
I
what
have
I'm thinking.
seen.
Like, yeah. Oh,
Oh,
sorry, go ahead, Charmaine. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll
I've
say mine after.
yeah. Sorry. I've seen like a lot of like relationship, like different types of love, different types are like my parents also got like married and had children like really, really early and are like so they did kind of choose love over their career. But it's also kind of at that point, I saw them being just like they're in love. They also now just like have to like get in gear and just like work that much hard in their career. And then in communicating their points to each other and them always consistently having to be a team despite not having that success yet and then having to watch over kids, like it's great. I feel like it's a level of hard work that I've always admired in them that I don't know if I see in myself, so that's why I have a career. that's why that's why they really pushed for one as well. They're just like, yeah, you're not going through what we did. You're gonna get a job.
And just to add on that, as you're younger, it's easier for you to learn. It's easier for you to gain knowledge and all that. And so that's why it makes it easier to get that career. If you get older and then and I know people who got married and then decided they wanted an education after the fact, then it makes it even harder because, like you said, not only are you dealing with kids, but now you're not as alert as you were before, where you could have learned everything while you were younger. Now you have to learn everything as you're older, and will let you know your memory is not the same as when you were younger. And so sometimes if you have to memorize things for class, it is not easy when you get older. And this is why,
True.
with a lot of people, they're always saying, get that career, and then the relationship comes after. Because even like Ramara, I think that they're from the Philippines. They said, I think before we enter into a relationship, we should be stable enough to support the relationship that we will build with the other person. So career comes first. Like I said, see, these married folks are saying career comes first. They must know what they're saying.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I reiterate career it's a necessity. Whether or not you choose love, you need career. You need to have a career to to survive, basically.
Right, just like as a foundation.
Mm.
But definitely, like Tony said, communication does play a part.
Mhm.
Establishing boundaries. If you can set that up ahead of time, yeah, you're gonna put a lot more work in. Like Shar said, love isn't easy, right? For the ones in the chat, it's definitely a bumpy road, right? So if that is a path you are to choose, it's best to do it with the best foot forward with your partner, right? You're never gonna be, for those who chose love first, right? It's a teamwork, like Shar said. It's not, it takes two to tango, and you never can just do it on your own, which I think is kind of what the main difference is. This is not necessarily a conversation on career versus love, more so, which well that is the topic, but it's more so standing on your own and then standing together with your partner together.
Yes.
It is
And
to me.
I have to disagree with that because I
Oh.
think you can stand on your own without, I mean, like, I'm not saying, we were meant to be alone our entire lives, but I think there is a way where you can stand on your own without having to need anybody. Now, you could want somebody that's totally different, but I don't think we need to need somebody because for me, if you put your whole thing where I need someone, then you're always going to be relying on that person. And then when things don't work out, you get hurt or your expectations aren't met, you get disappointed. And so I think to be able to do things on your own and then having somebody there is like a supplement but I don't think it is what we need to focus on.
And I think that's something we don't think of, like when we choose love, because there's of course there's that I don't know that pleasant feeling, right, when we see the person that we like, you know. So like you might choose love because of like that good feeling, but with relationships can like you have to be ready for the not so good feelings that you're gonna feel as well. It's and like for me, I don't know. This is just something I've experienced personally, or if this is something like maybe some people have experienced. Like being in love is like where I felt the greatest, and also where I felt the worst. you know, that sort of like that feeling of like this is the best feeling in the world, like that thing in movies where you're like running through the flower fields, like that sort of feeling, but also a feeling of no, I'm not kidding. Like, you're shaking your head, Arnie. I'm not kidding. Like that's how it felt, like it felt like you're looking at the world and everything's just like everything like the saturation is just turned up to 11.
And you
Everything's
got
so
background music playing in the back, right?
yeah, yeah. But also that like being in love, like and the hard parts of the difficult parts of love, like it's where like it feels like the color just drained from like everything. It's hard to do like anything, to be motivated to do anything. And I think that's what you were saying, Arnie, of like just putting everything into like that person, right? Where it you're not motivated anymore to do anything because of you placed your entire emotional what do you call that?
Energy, you're investing everything into them as
Yeah.
opposed to just
Like their mood affects your mood, or what they're doing affects your mood, basically.
And see, and you're right. You know, when people think about love, they only think about the good feelings, the happy, like you said, running in the fields. Okay, that's all people think about. But that's why when I say I choose career, because I know there's the good and the bad. But when people go in blindly and think that, oh, it's going to be, you know, blue skies and rainbows every day, when it really isn't, then I think then that's where like the disappointment comes in. And so at least with your career, that's something that you can, you know, that you can stabilize. That's something that you can kind of control, because it's easier to control a job than it is to control a person. And I don't think we should be in the position to control anybody, because, you know, even though people say, yeah, you could control people, I'm like, why would you want to control somebody? Because then that means they don't have the free will to do what they like. And so, at least with your career, you can control that. But with a
But
person,
what if that person is willingly, they're just like, I want to make it work. Like I want to make it work even
I
though
feel like
we're
it's like, yeah, I was like, maybe it's not like a matter of control. Like maybe it's just of like finding the person that like syncs up with that. Like there doesn't even have to be that like effort or in there. I feel like it's. Oh no, we talked about like the relationships
I mean,
constantly
I would say be
being that
careful.
effort, but like I guess like the mutual agreement of like having that effort be put in and having that or like knowing that your effort is being reciprocated through another person, I feel like is, I don't know, just really cool. I know that I like
Really
I
cool.
was like I really like the career. I really like I really like my career. I really love like especially these days about like how much effort is being rewarded into like my growth and everything. I love just also knowing I do feel like I think since I put so much like focus on my career and not really giving myself like a chance for love, I do feel like I don't know. I don't know about you guys. I feel a little bit like emotionally stunted. I don't know how to proceed in finding a person. I like even if I do think that I'm enough, I still don't know necessarily like how to talk to a guy to communicate like that I am enough or like of like doing that. I'm like still I don't know kind kind of shy. I don't know how to open up and be vulnerable right now and letting myself kind of like feel more romantic feelings and pursuing that for a person. I love that I chose career. I do also know that because of that, there's a little bit of ways that I am not prepared for whenever it comes to love. That sucks a little bit, I guess.
ah wow.
Was
There's
that
a
just the
lot of
first
things.
question?
I mean, okay, let's be real for a second, because we've all had people that we were just like, I've never gotten to that stage of officially. I mean, like I dated someone for like 3 months, but it didn't like, because I'm the type of person where it's like if I know, if I can already feel that it's not going where I don't like, then it's like, I'm okay with ending it there, right? I don't want to waste time. But I'm gonna pose this scenario for you, like in the sense of like you did choose both, right? Like let's say you decided, and this is for everyone, even if that's not what you chose. Let's just say that you chose both. What are
Okay.
the things that you would kind of have to face in choosing both? Because there might be somebody out there who's literally in this position right now where they are so in love with their boyfriend or girlfriend, but they're still actively pursuing college, or maybe they're going through graduate school. um, if you did choose both, because we're not saying that you only choose love and you don't give yourself a career. That's
Yeah.
totally not what we're saying. I hope no one's thinking that. But let's say you did choose both, or you invested.
You're open to both. You're
Right.
You're open to
pursuing
both.
one, open
would
Yeah.
say
pursuing
What are
career,
the ways
open
that
to
it
love.
affects?
It's
What
the
are the
most
ways that it actually
realistic
affects?
option, right?
Yeah.
It's the most realistic option is that you are going to be in both, right? If you're in a position where you have to be one or the other, then I believe that's the wrong position to be in, right? If you have to choose, hey, choose, like for example, if I had a girlfriend and she was like, let's say she was like, hey, moving closer with me, leave your job, moving closer to me so you can be together, right? Then that's obviously the wrong choice, right? To leave your job and to leave stability for the sake of love is not the way you should move forward if you're looking for a long-term relationship. Now, if it was vice versa, let's say I had to go to Europe and I had my girlfriend's here in America, long distance relationship, and you're ready, and for the ones for the panelists here and for the viewers back home, long distance is not easy, right? So now you have to establish your boundaries, your what your expectations are. But even then, it's going to be difficult. So, but in the event, let's say you are to choose both, like you said, you're both in college, you're both trying to make it work. It needs to be established that what are you expecting, right? You got to be real about what you're able to afford going on dates. At one point in time, I had to take the bus. I wasn't driving yet, and I was in college. I took the bus, right? She was in Berkeley. I was in Sao Paulo, and I took the bus. I took the BART. I made it work, and we understood that, right? Um, and then and she was pursuing college, but I was working. So um, it becomes now a conversation with in having is what are the expectations? Are you able to sustain that relationship? Um, but it does become like if you find yourself to be struggling to make a decision, maybe it's time to evaluate where you are in life, right? And was I ready for that relationship not being able to drive? No, but there was a conversation that we had that we tried to make it work. So it's more so like you don't want to put everything into one basket, right? But you want to make the best use of both your times and your energies and not waste anyone's time, right? If you're both pursuing things and you need to get to a point in life where you feel like you're a little bit more comfortable, that's where you should strive for. And if you end up being in a relationship during that time of your life when you're in that growth period, that's even better because now you're both growing together, right? But it stems from an understanding of where you both are. If there's one person that has a better understanding of where they are rather than the other side, then that's where relationships tend to fall apart because there's now a dissonance in expectations and what's being provided on the table. So did I kind of answer the
Okay,
question?
James. No, yeah, you answered it great.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah, it was really good. I agree with a lot of it. I agree with like establishing boundaries, expectations, and then I feel like what is important that you said is like always having the ability to reevaluate, to like check in and everything. I also feel like I need that safety to communicate that with my partner or as well. Like imagine if I had a boyfriend. And let's stay in that moment for a little bit cuz that seems really nice. Okay. Now, if,
Just marinate in that little moment right there.
let's just like stay in that and like let's it's a nice life. Anyway,
Soak it in and let
I
it
know.
let it settle in.
If there are differences and points of life and everything, and I would love to still have that safety to be able to communicate it, to know that I can stand firm and have not have like that partner kind of like already be 100% like against me. I feel like there is like a if there is a disagreement, I would love to have a partner that would still want to hear my points and still be understanding of it and still have his own standards and have that communication. I feel like if it's like an all or nothing situation or having it be like my way or the highway, it just feels so that's already just kind of a dangerous situation to me. So one that I don't feel like okay to say what I want, what I need for my ambition, and that is kind of already kind of like a no go. Or like at that point, if I don't feel safe to say that I need this or I need to stay here, I need this for my job. If I already feel pressured of just like, well, he's not gonna like that, then something has already kind of gone astray.
I would like to hear from the one who's married and in the panel. Hey, Nate.
Yeah, I was listening as I was driving to the studio here, and I do have a slightly different perspective. But I think a one nuance that wasn't mentioned was like when you're choosing love or career, and if you choose the career, it's like how much career are you choosing? I don't think I don't know if that was discussed, but like, so like when I graduated high school, I immediately like went to college like a week later. I was starting early because like I wanted to get my career going. And I wanted to graduate as soon as possible because I wanted to get my career going. And the reason why I wanted to do that because I wanted to be married by the time I was 25. So I was like, I need to get this done so then I can, you know, go ahead and get what I actually want. So in a way, you're kind of choosing career, but I mean, are you really choosing career or are you choosing it because you want love? Because, you know, as I heard it
That's
discussed,
crazy. That's crazy.
That was a bar.
like, you know, you got to be able to take care of yourself. But, you know, at what point are you, you know, going to stop with the career because you're at a level where you can take care of yourself and somebody else. And then you can now focus on love. And I did reach that goal. I wasn't married by the time I was 25, exactly 25 actually. So yeah, so that's kind of the perspective I have. So I would think I'm more of like team love, where like I'm not really choosing a career as much as like I'm using the career to get love, if that makes sense.
My hero.
I know.
And then another thing, like it doesn't end there. Like I feel like it's too much of like this movie idea of how love works, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm gonna get married and live happily ever after, and that's not how it works. You're still gonna have to make the choice, love or
The
career.
credits roll just after the wedding.
Yeah, you still got to make that choice. So, and me and my wife, we've had to make that choice several times. One that stands out was when I had lost my job. I was unemployed for like 2 months, couldn't find anything because we had our careers going. We were able to support each other during that time. But my career was going to be in a different city. I got offered a job up here in Fort Worth. We were in Houston at the time. It's a 4-hour drive. And so it's like, okay, it's not going to be pleasant to be apart, but we kind of need this to, you know, kind of get our family back on track. Because, you know, you kind of have to prioritize that because you're taking care, because we have a son. So it's like, we got to take care of him as a family. So you do have to make kind of that difficult decision. It doesn't mean we stop loving each other. It's like, okay, let me go get this career going and eventually, you know, move my family up with me here in Fort Worth. And so I think it's not as black and white as, you know, we would like it to be. There's a lot of nuance, but it's like, you know, if I don't think a career should be like an end. It's like your career should be something that I mean, I think of like the European saying, you know, do you live to work, work to live, kind of thing.
Okay.
So
I have a question for for Nate. If you weren't able to meet your goal and be married by 25, actually, if you weren't able to like meet your goal and not be able to marry anyone like until like much later, like no prospects or anything, how do you think that you would have handled that?
ooh, I don't know. I mean, I would have just kept on trying. I mean, I've crashed and burned on my way to that 25. So, you know, it's just, I had to, you know, you keep trying, but that was my goal, you know? So it's like, I need to do what I need to do to reach that goal. It's kind of scary to think like, oh, what if it didn't work out? Where would I be now? I don't know.
I think
I guess we'll never know.
I, I guess we'll never know. I think that there is that fear. I think it's such a beautiful story. I love your point of view, Nate. It's so good. I think there is just like a real fear of like having that be like, what if that goal doesn't work out? Like or like what if I'm using my career and everything and I got the money, I got the prospects, but I'm nearing 30, and or like and I still am not able to like get married. I think that's why there is such a need for me to, at least for me, to want to at least be like, no expectations in love. I will just focus on my career, and that kind of have like that be the thing.
Well, there's
Um,
also like, are you going to artificially put barriers in place to stop you from
Low
falling in love?
key, if you
So,
can stop calling me out, that would be nice.
well, what I'm actually going to get to is like, I know some who want to get married, but maybe cost is a thing. For instance, the wedding expenses, and I say, if you want to get married, go get married. Like, why are you going to let an expensive wedding hold you back? I mean, in the end, if that's what you really want, then go for it. But like, I mean, me and my wife, when we got married, we were both school teachers, so we couldn't have like a royal wedding or anything. We just, we want to get married. This is all we got, so we're gonna get married with what we got, basically. I mean, just to put it in perspective, we dated for like a year and a half. So it's like started dating, year and a half later, we were married. So yeah, so I guess I'm team love.
Nate's like my newfound hero.
When and like, you can pursue a career. I mean, if you have a healthy relationship too with your wife, there's no reason you can't pursue a career afterwards, because you have that support system. So like, my wife wanted to pursue real estate, and I was like, yeah, go for it. Like, I can help you out, you know, here at the house. And I kind of see that also for others. You can choose love first, and you kind of pool your resources together and think about like economics and whatnot, and you can help each other out. You can say, okay, I'm going to supply the basics while you can get really ahead, and then we can move this family a lot forward. So there's a lot of teamwork involved when it comes to like love and marriage. So I mean, it kind of comes down to like, what are your values, what are your goals in life?
Do you think it'd be important to have not only your expectations of the relationship ahead of time prior to getting real serious? Do you think it's also important to also have your goals in mind, or your goals already preset prior to getting to a relationship like that?
Well, that first part, like, your intentions, right? Making that clear up front. So, after you date a while, if it's serious, then, the two of you should decide like, okay, this is going to be a legit thing that, we're going to go for. Of the traditional view of marriage, like, it's a lifelong bond that you make. What do you say? Endorsed by God, blessed by God. But yeah, so yeah, having that up front. What was the second part of your question? Sorry.
So expectations was the first part. The second part was what your goals were. Like in 3 years, let's get married. Like having that set up ahead of time, or you think that's detrimental? Like for
No,
example,
it's not
you said,
detrimental to set goals. Yeah, like you set that goal and then you start working towards it. But you gotta be flexible too. You gotta understand that plan B, C, D, E, F, etc. might have to come into play. But I mean, to put in perspective, there's like billions and billions of people all throughout the ages who've gotten married. It's like, why can't you also, right? So it's not that difficult to get married. Okay, it's just what do you want going into it? How much of the relationship established? I mean, really, if you want a relationship to work, it's like, what are both of your values at play? When you're bringing it in, how willing are you to work together with somebody? The whole call it give and take, compromise and whatnot. That's absolutely necessary, for a relationship. Because if it's like my way or the highway, then you're going to find yourself on the highway a lot.
And I must agree with Nate. Like, it is good to set goals and what you want out of life, but I also don't think you should beat yourself up for it when you don't meet those goals, because sometimes there's a reason why those goals aren't being met. So maybe, you had a plan, you wanted a career, and then you want to be married at a certain age. And let's say the career part worked out, but the relationship part didn't work out. for me, I always believe that things happen for a reason. And if we beat ourselves up for it, thinking, oh, I should be married now, I've got a job, I've got this, I should be married now, maybe there's a reason. It's just probably not the right time. And I think if we put too much pressure on ourselves, that doesn't help in any way. So even if you say, hey, I want a career so that I can get married, which is the ultimate goal, I think, of every person, because like I said, no one wants to be an island and be by themselves. But it's okay that you got to the career part and didn't get to the love part, because if it's really going to happen, it's really going to happen. It's not something that we should force. And I've heard people say it all the time where, I found love when I wasn't looking for it. And it's true. When you're not looking for it, it comes. The more you look for it, sometimes the harder it is. So I say just, have your goals, enjoy your life, do what you want to do, and let things fall into place.
I love that, because then I also agree with that, because then there are some friends that I have, right? They've gotten burned one too many times to them, right? And I tell them, given our age, we're around 25, right? I was like, and I tell them, I was like, why give up so early, right? Why take the bad experiences that you faced in love and the setbacks you faced in life and completely close yourself off to the opportunities that may come forward later in life, right? Like you said, it does come in with timing, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And it's really tough to see, especially as a friend, when you see your friend going through a hard time, if it's from based on relationship or maybe even school, and they give themselves such a hard time, and I tell them, I was like, don't close yourself to the opportunity of finding love again, right? It's going to be a tough part right now. It's going to suck a lot. Maybe you didn't get into the grad school that you wanted to, and maybe you need to pivot. But there are so much more opportunities, and I think life is not just a clear cut goal, hit, goal, miss. It's such a colorful world we live in, right? With so many hues, right? It's not just one color, it's different hues and different shades. And I think that's kind of sprinkles into this topic, right? It's like, it's not a black and white love versus career. Maybe it's a means to an end, like Nate said. In But definitely never let yourself get to the point where, like Arnie said, be an island. And you never just, this is for the listeners back home, because then you never know what happens sometime down the line. You never want to close yourself off to that possibility.
To add on to that real quick, just you talk about like rejection and failure, like the advice I would give to somebody who may feel discouraged is don't let that define your life. Don't let that define you. If you get rejected, are you going to let others define you? Like, no, take control of your life, take control of your feelings, take control of your ambitions and whatnot, so don't let that guide you.
A man way back whenever I was like 13, 14, he asked me, it's like, what age are you going to be whenever you get married and have kids? You know what I said? The age I said, oh, 23. So, oh, 23. I'm 26 now. So I guess that hasn't happened for me. But I look back on that and I do laugh, because it's kind of just like, of course it wasn't for you. Of course for you it wasn't 23. Or like, you're still growing. You had so much other things to focus on besides like getting married and having kids. You had, it's not like you had nothing to do and then you failed at like not finding a husband and having kids. I was like off like doing like so much and accomplishing so much. My career, like establishing other relationships that fulfill me, having other interests and hobbies. And while it is just, it's always just a really nice thing to just like dream about and wait for the most part, like I truly am okay. And just being like, or like having my day to day be like, yeah, I love my job. I love coming home to do the things that I like and not having to worry. And then the time will come whenever the thing that I've been, praying for, honestly, and hoping for will come around and can just fit into my life, and then I can grow from there. And it truly is like you guys are right, like not letting that define you, not looking at like that as a failure. Um, and I don't know, would you think that like being in a relationship, but then like having not having like a lot of money or not having like a lot of careers, like that shouldn't be considered a failure as well, right? Like the other way around. I don't know that point of view, honestly.
And just to add on, times have changed. Back in the days, a lot of people got married young because it was their only way out of the house. Us now that times have changed where we can be independent, where we don't have to be married to be able to be established. And I think with all that, that's why sometimes people are getting married at a later age than back then when they were young and all they did was want to have kids. My parents got married young. They had 6 kids, and but they weren't stable in their career. So yeah, we struggled. And I have a lot of friends who all got married young because that was the only way they could move out of the house. But with me, I was able to leave the house without getting married, but all my siblings, they did not leave the house until they got married. And so I think having that option is sometimes why it's okay to not have a relationship younger on and to wait for it later. But either way, I think just the fact that you have your goal, this is what you want, just let it happen and not stress over it.
Ooh, I love that. You know what? Because then it goes back to your original point of establishing yourself. Because I feel like it'd be so much more sweeter to be in a relationship when you're completely like you're whole, right? You've accomplished your goals. You've established what you like and what you don't like. Because that's something as so when you're younger, growing up from 18 going into college, and from what you find in college and maybe a little bit afterwards, you don't find out what you really really want until later, right? Like how many of the people in the chat, or even for our panelists, right, really knew what we wanted early on? I didn't. I wanted to be an engineer. I'm in medical field right now. So I took a pivot, a huge pivot, and I didn't know it until I was a little older. And it was just recently, actually, I took that pivot back into the medical field. So, it's when it's so much more sweeter, I believe, is when you find out what you love and what you want to do in life. And that just takes time, because you need to experience more of life to know what you really want. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Arnie, that's really the epitome of what's being discussed here, right?
Yes, because, even when you have, let's say you have that first relationship and it doesn't work out, there's a reason it didn't work out. And like they said, you have to find a bunch of Mr. Wrongs to realize who the Mr. Right is. Right?
What I'm like hearing from everybody, sorry, Melvi, I just saw you on mute. I just want to say that I feel like the underlying quality for all of it is really self-awareness. Like you have to have cultivated a sense of self-awareness, and I think that does come from having a certain level of maturity to actually be able to assess yourself in that way, in whatever situation it is. Like to be able to kind of be like, oh, yeah, I don't think this is working for me, or oh, I don't think this is what I need at the moment, etc., etc., etc. Yes, no, maybe so.
Yes, because if you're not aware and of who you are, there's no way you can make it work with somebody else. Because just like they said, whenever you have to love yourself first before you could love somebody else. And so that's true. And so if having to work and get a career so that you can find yourself to figure out what you want later on in life, then that's what it is. But I don't think you can just, like what others were saying, where you just depend on somebody else for your happiness. You got to have that happiness going into it before you find somebody else and you could be happy.
I just want to add, see failures and challenges as an opportunity, not something that you want to regret or you think it'll just drag you down and then you lose self confidence. Life is filled with many choices. And at the end of the day, it boils down to, what do we really want? What's going to make us happy? What's going to make us complete? Especially if we already have career and we're missing one of it, right? Which is love. And if you can have both, would be so beautiful. Beautiful ending. And you're just going to have to make it work. Just like what Nate said, compromise. It's not a one-way road. It's two-way. You got to meet in the middle. You got to talk. And communication is a huge thing. And if in case that's already a, let's say, I'm not going to say a problem, but let's say a complication or maybe just a little bit of a challenge nowadays, especially the young adults, which I notice is they're more either into their phones, and it's so much easier for them to text their hearts out or their messages. But when it comes to face-to-face interactions, then there's somehow an awkwardness or disconnection. So if you really want to get to know someone, I encourage you to just continuously improve your way of conveying your message and just talk from the heart and just say what you mean and mean what you say. And actions do speak louder than words. So act what you're going to say because the other person who's receiving it can also feel that. Silence
Thoughts,
again.
guys? Jar?
No, it's because I was typing something in chat. It was just like, Mel is
And
such
that's a show.
it's like a full quote. Like it's like a whole everything she says is just quotable. Like just have it everything written down.
I feel like if there needs to be like an Instagram thing or like where like the words like animate out, like just like a bunch of like pull quotes for whatever Melvie says, and then there's like a
Words,
sunset in the background.
words by Melvie. Ooh,
Real.
by Melvie.
Yeah, the
Melvie's
island
dad
life
should be
is
on
coming
the
out of
t-shirt.
you.
At the moment, a lot of things you say should be on a t-shirt.
Yeah, on a t-shirt, right? I like that.
Okay.
Oh.
So we really talked it out. I feel like we've given justice to both sides now a little bit, right? Thanks for giving some for the love. Of course, but like what we said, right? We're not saying it's the either or, but I just wanted to drive also that everybody's narrative is going to look different, right? It's not all going to look the same. It's not going to be the one size fits all, right? Even though I know Arnie is really pushing the whole, she's really in the butt of, yes, career first, right? But what I want to ask all of you before we do have to close out the show is what would be the lessons ultimately, like that you've learned from choices you've had to make? I know you've mentioned some of it already, but like let's say there's somebody who's watching right now where they're literally in this position. Doesn't matter what point in life they're at, but they're trying to juggle between the two. What would be your advice to them, whatever perspective you're coming from? If you're pro career first, or if you're like Nate and you're like, yeah, just see where it goes with love. What would be your insight to give to them?
I say, or like at least for the position that I'm in right now, of just like the career, while also like kind of hoping for love. I feel like the lesson that I learned is that kind of like in the meantime, I can just show love to myself in the way that I kind of want someone else to show love to me. So I don't necessarily have to wait for a guy to like take me out on dates. I can go see a show by myself. I can go to a restaurant and a movie by myself, and I can treat myself right. I can call myself beautiful. I can buy myself flowers. And and be able to even have those conversations with myself of being just like, we've had a bad day, like like what else can like how can we handle it, how can we get through it, and be able to like to what Melvy's point says, like practicing that like level of like communication on myself and being able to like verbalize that, and also verbalize like the hard parts that I want to acknowledge about myself, but also the loving parts. I feel like that's actually more hard for me to just like find all of the parts that make me like deserving of love that I love about myself. So I can one day, again, imagine if I have a boyfriend and let's just stay in it. We can, I can at least like convey those points. I have that full belief. I won't buckle under just like a need for like that connection or love, and know that I can just be enough. I feel like just just loving yourself, I guess in the meantime.
That's well said.
I think
And I
Absolutely.
think you have to think of like what stage of your life you're at when you make the decision, because um, one will not be right over the other depending on where you're at. If you're at a point where um, if you had to choose between the two and you can't even support yourself, then maybe choosing love might be wrong right now. But then later on, when you are set in life and everything's great, you've got the career you've wanted, then that's when you can go ahead and choose love. Do you know what I'm saying? But it's not saying one is right over the other. It just depends on what stage of your life you're at to determine what's best for you.
One thing I like to close out with is just hearing like older people when they talk about reflecting on life and what's important. The one they often refer to is like, on your deathbed, what are you going to think about? So it's like, on your deathbed, are you going to wish, oh, I wish I attended more of those trainings so I got a higher performance review? No, you're never going to say that on your deathbed. Okay. So just realize that like what is going to be most important to you in your life to make it meaningful, and you're going to find it's going to be your relationships with the people or the things that you want to be involved with and help out with, so that when you finalize your life and you look at your life, you're like, okay, I didn't waste my life focusing on something that could in turn burn me. Because we talk about burning in relationships, like I can get burned in a relationship. Well, your job can do that too. You can show up on Monday and they'll just fire you. You're just like, oh, the company has no money and you're laid off. So realize that too. Like it can go either way.
Arnie's gonna look back on her life with her stacks of cash and her like multiple plane tickets, and she's gonna be like, "I was all right. You know what?"
No, but it's also, yeah, absolutely. Nate, Arnie, Shar, you guys, amazing points pointed out. For the folks back home, um, be 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 not to say content. I would say just enjoy the moment for what it is, for the life that you have. Right? If you are gonna be in a relationship, gonna be single. If you're single right now, or if you're in a relationship right now, if you're going through school, you're going through college, um, high school, if you're in your career and you're trying to get promoted, enjoy it to the best of your ability. And if you end up finding somebody that can supplement it, not necessarily, um, you know, one or the other, rely on it too heavy on one side or the other, but to supplement your life, um, then that's a blessing in and of itself. So enjoy it.
Each point is an opportunity to be grateful for it. Each point of your life.
For me, I just want to say, don't force it either way. Whether like if you feel like you're pushing whether for love or for career, and it's like it seems like no matter how hard you push, there's no progress. Maybe you need to find what it is you have to do first. What it is you're meant to do first. And if you really need to, ask for guidance. Pray for guidance. Approach people. Like take the advice, whatever they're willing to share to you. But don't, if you feel like you're not making progress on whichever one you choose at the moment, don't push. don't force it, because from experience, never really works out. If you just force what you want at the moment.
What I can say is you are unique in your own way. Find someone who will embrace that with you. Make each day count, and above all, trust the process.
The words, the floating words again. Rolling.
I think you dropped this, Melvin.
There's been so much that's been said throughout this broadcast. It's hard to summarize everything. But my last 2 cents to everyone before we close out the show is when you're making decision, whatever the decision will be, make sure that it's not driven by emotion, right? Don't let it be driven purely by emotion. Like, make sure that you do your diligence in thinking things through, and that self-awareness of, yeah, am I able to pay for this date? Maybe not. I don't know, but just stuff to think about. Okay, stuff to think about. So hopefully this broadcast has been helpful to all of you who have listened with us. Do let us know your thoughts, even when the show is no longer live. Comment down below and let us know any other topics that you guys want to talk about, because here on Chatline we like to have conversations that matter. So thanks for staying with us throughout an hour and a half today. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope you had fun with all of us. Hope to see you all again next time, sometime soon. Thanks, guys.
Pay for the first date.
Looking for more conversations that matter? INCRadio Chatline, Fridays at 8 p.m. Pacific or 11 p.m. Eastern at INCRadio DZEM 954 on YouTube.